Eins, zwei. Hello? Uh-oh. I don't think it's anything to worry about.
Yeah, I think I'll toss my hat into the ring on this one. Why not? So, it seems like now that we've, for the most part, gotten past the whole bot problem, it's time to shift our focus onto other items of interest in the game that could use some improvements. I've recently been seeing more conversation about the free-to-play's lack of communication capabilities starting to crop up, and you know what? I've got some feelings about this too. TF2 is a game that is largely characterized by the seemingly endless options for interacting with other players, from the general voice and text chat to the massive quantity of voice commands that can be utilized in a variety of unique ways. There are plenty of avenues through which a player can appropriately convey their thoughts and personality to everyone else around them. Some might even say that this is the soul of TF2 and what the game ultimately boils down to at its core. The kind of thing that helps bring people back over and over again. Every connection, every interaction, every memory that is created within this game is, without question, what drives a lot of people to keep logging on. One of the reasons I can't put the game down is because every time I play the game, there's always the opportunity to encounter some special moment that has the ability to totally shape my experience for that session. And every time it happens, it's never the same way twice. It's these special little moments where we exchange a thank you, a jeer, a cheer, or trade constant accusations of being French that continued to delight time and time and time again. So tell me, if you will, why are new players still blocked off from accessing these features that give the game so much life? It is a question that I don't think actually has a legitimate answer in the year 2025. I mean, sure, let's get literal with it. The original reason that free-to-plays were blocked off is because it was a means to, supposedly, prevent bad actors and bots from constantly spamming legitimate players with egregiously loud audio over voice and horrendous racial slurs over text. And from what I understand, things played out about as well as you would have expected them to. It did what they needed it to do for all of 5 minutes before the bot hosters simply abused the rather generously low-priced paywall to go right back to what they were doing anyway. And in the meantime, anybody logging on for the first time after that could no longer use voice chat, text chat, or any of the actually important voice commands, of which, I might add, every single mercenary has uniquely voiced versions of. So in addition to being walled off from being able to communicate at large, new players don't even get access to a large portion of recorded dialogue that only helps to carry the personality and charm of these characters that they are trying to play as. One of the most important factors of giving a player a reason to care at all about who they're controlling, and they don't even have the luxury of being able to check them out even for the fun of it. When I first played the game myself, the moment I realized that the recorded dialogue was practically endless and unique to each character, I would find myself repeatedly pressing the shortcut keys over and over again in order to try and listen to every single line available. Sure, if you knew where to go, you could just look up this kind of thing or dig through the files on your computer or whatever, but if you were totally unfamiliar with the game, digging around in files where you're normally not supposed to be, especially if it was the first time you ever opened anything up on Steam, period, you're not going to be thinking about trying to do anything like that. You're just going to go balls to the wall, try to find everything yourself. The commands are there, right in front of you, and you're loaded into the game as it is, so, why wouldn't you? And shoot, you could argue that this is part of the fun anyway, the discovery. But if you don't even have the ability to go through all of that on your own, and are effectively barred from even so much as accessing the vocal commands in general, it's going to be hard to make some of those mental connections with these characters. But far more importantly, and what most people should absolutely point out always, it's the fact that you are totally obstructed from being able to simply ask your teammates for any kind of help whatsoever. You can't put in a call for a medic, you can't articulate that you might be ready to pop an Uber, you can't scream about an impending spy when your NGs and heavies would very likely appreciate the heads up. You can't even tell people to go ahead of you to take a tally, warn players about sentries ahead. You can't thank players for assists or considerate actions. You can't request necessary equipment from engineers on your team if they don't realize something isn't built yet because they already have so much on the plate managing resources in other buildings. There are so many things that you just cannot put into words, because the game was told that without financial support, you are just not allowed to utilize a very, very fundamental tool that was expressly baked into the game from the very beginning precisely because of how integral it was to the overall experience. It's hard to really express how frustrating this actually is until you yourself decide to take the time to go down the growing list of grievances that this one adjustment has created, compared to the number of issues that it actually resolved, which is a resounding 0, considering that the core issue, the bots, have ultimately been taken care of in spite of this mute of free-to-plays. This communications block was put into place to resolve one singular issue, which was resolved totally unrelated to anything the free-to-plays were doing, and now that the game is back to a semi-playable state, there is absolutely no reason at all for this configuration to stay here. Some folks may still suggest that voice and text remain toggled off and only voice commands are freed up to compensate, but I feel like there's no reason to meet halfway with Valve on this. Like, let's be real. If someone's gonna say something terrible, then they're just gonna do that, regardless of who it affects. Is it right? No, of course not. Treat people better and don't be a douche. But like, people who have paid for this game have said stuff on par with some of the worst that bots have ever had to offer, and they're still allowed to talk freely and communicate with other players no matter what. This is where I gently make a side note about how the actual solution for this issue is to better manage the reporting system and actually handle bad actors with legitimate penalties to discourage repeat offenses, but I feel like that's an entirely separate conversation all on its own that I'm not gonna really get into here. I feel like this thing is already long enough as it is, but that is a much preferred method to dealing with the types of people who go out of their way to abuse chat. Blocking key communication methods unless a new player pays up does nothing to help with the continued longevity of the game, and can be an active deterrent to sticking around, and I think it's time that we have a serious discussion about what we could do to get this taken care of. And no, just paying up is not the answer either. We can't tackle this with an attitude of, well, I had to do it, so shut up and just take your medicine. We should really be thinking more along the lines of, it was stupid that I had to do it, and it's stupid to make other people continue to do it. This needs to change for everyone's sake. It's not bad to think about other people. I'm just saying. All in all, I think it would just be healthier for the game in the long run to do away with this setting, this toggle, and revert it back to how it was a long time ago. The one job that it had to do, it almost failed immediately, and so it really just seems like the end goal of it all was merely to try and squeeze some extra money out of new players in order to make up for potential lost costs when the game opened its doors for everybody at once. And even then, I feel like the people who regularly support this game financially are making up for it all on their own, and it's nothing that free-to-plays would ever actually contribute to in a meaningful way, especially if they feel like there's no reason to stick around and play in the long run. Now, open the doors a little more by allowing them to speak, give them the ability to interact, communicate, and you have a chance of getting them to stick around much longer. Learn the ins and outs of how everything works, see what makes the mercenaries such appealing characters in general, and maybe, just maybe, they will feel more than willing to drop a couple bucks on that strange marksman that's been staring at them from across the way this whole time.